Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering human creativity. I am Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's guest is Titus Underwood, who serves as principal oboe of the Nashville Symphony, is on faculty at the Cincinnati College-Conservatory of Music, and I would be very remiss if I did not also add that he is one of the very few recipients of the Sphinx Medal of Excellence. Titus, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Aaron. Thank you so much. It is my pleasure. And I'm just excited to get into it. Let's hop into it.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. And, I'm especially excited because I've been able to know so much of your work over the years. And also excited, this show is co-curated with one of our partners, the Aspen Music Festival and School. Really helped to co-curate as we were thinking about this. And of course, you've had some extraordinary experiences at Aspen.
Yes, I'm actually in Aspen, Colorado right now, faculty and performing as well here. So playing with the orchestra and teaching a studio of students. And it's been a blast. Aspen's so beautiful. Still getting used to the high altitude though, but I'm having a great time. I'm having a blast out here.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. The very first time I went out there, I was so worried about it. I had one of those little canisters for oxygen because I was like, if I go up steps, I'm gonna run out of breath.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, I actually might be overdoing it a little bit. And so, but an extraordinary setting in which to, really do some of the highest music making, which I thought I would kind of talk about or ask you, which is, one of the things that we often talk about on the show is the impact of institutions like Aspen on us. And just wondering if you could share the Aspen or any of the other institutions that you've been affiliated with, kind of that institutional impact for you in terms of the role that an institution plays for you in your development.
Absolutely. I mean, institutions are the places they hold things, they preserve things, they facilitate things, they manage things. And I've been a part of many great institutions that's helped propel me to where I am today. So I wouldn't be here without institutions. I know we talk about a lot about institutional change, and that's one of the biggest things that we've been speaking of today. But institutions themselves can be very, very powerful in where people land and how our dreams are fulfilled. I mean, going to Cleveland Institute of Music for my undergrad, going to Juilliard for my master's, being a part of the Nashville Symphony, which is a great institution. Also, CCM, I'm really looking forward to teaching the students there and all the great things they're doing there and all the interdisciplinary work they're doing. Here at Aspen, all the things they're doing, they're having so many different underrepresented composers here this year, and it just kind of shifts on the dime. There's so many people being represented here, and they're really, really changing things. So institution can be a place where we can really make things and create things, and where all artists come together and meet and great ideas are birthed and facilitated. So I think that's one of the biggest things about institutions, is that that's where we can meet, congregate, create, and also project the future and build new things for the upcoming generation to aspire to be a part of. So that's what I think institutions are so powerful for, that they facilitate our creativity.
Awesome. Awesome. And and it makes me think of this, people often talk about when they're at an institution or working with an institution, they're like, I want to leave things better than they were when I got there, right? That kind of thing. And so this is really true. And I was wondering if you could kind of speak to, right? You have the opportunity to have all of these roles and leadership roles in these different institutions. There's certainly been, I would say, more of a sea change relating to issues surrounding diversity than we've seen, in the past 20 years, probably we've seen in the past year, a lot more movement. But obviously there are still people who certainly feel frustrated in their institutions. And what I was just wondering is, how have you found yourself able to bring about change at the institutions that you're at, right? Because sometimes people feel like, I can't bring about change. And oftentimes they might just give up or say, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just wondering what either mechanisms or tools that you would want to share with others of, try this, do this at your institution to help. Here's what has worked for me.
That's a great question. Very layered question. I speak to this to a lot of young people a lot, about institutional change and what you can do in institutional change and change it from the inside out. One thing that's really helped me along the ways is really, first of all, knowing my stuff, like really knowing my stuff as far as like how I perform. Then also, if I want to bring about some change in the institution, know the historical anchoring of how I'm able to present something or why this is valid. Like I can be frustrated with the present, but if I'm not able to draw a timeline with a convincing argument, maybe my argument isn't strong enough. And I think sometimes you do deal with things where it's oppositional, people don't want to do things, but at least in my case, and that doesn't mean that I haven't had hardships, I haven't had pushback. Like that happens for any institutional change, no matter what it is. If you're in an orchestra, if you move the chair 6 feet to the left, you're going to have a meeting about it. So it isn't like this is the only thing that people think about as far as institutional change. But I always press people to say, if you're speaking on the issue, let's take diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, right? If you're speaking on the issue, I want you to be really educated on the subject that you're talking about. Become an expert and a leader in that topic. Do that reading. Do that work. Because you've had that experience doesn't necessarily mean you know how to properly articulate how to change the situation that you're in. So a lot of times I see people in a point of frustration. We're not saying that the frustration isn't valid, because it's in fact valid and it's come from a genuine place. But if you want things to actually change, be a person that knows the history and also know how to present solutions, because that lets people know the context of your existence. If I can explain to someone, how did we get here with orchestras? What's the arc of orchestra? I just talked with someone recently about Beethoven's Ninth. We played it last week. And I taught a class about Black composers. And I also did this other workshop. And what people didn't really know is that Beethoven 9 and the song Jim Crow have been debuted only 5 years apart, as far as the popularity of that song here in America. So think of this masterpiece, Beethoven's Ninth, being created. And while simultaneously that's happening, you have Jim Crow coming to fruition in America. So how do I anchor that and talk about, okay, then we talk about orchestras and what's their timeline, when were they founded, where does all this come from? Me being a person who knows the history of that, then I can present something that's convincing, then build other camaraderie with other people who want change but don't know how to change it. Because some people want to change and be an ally and link up with you, but they don't know what to do. And they don't know where to look or where to even start to bring about change. So I've taken as my personal responsibility to be one to be very, very deeply rooted in what I know, so that I can be an agent of change where I go, and always leading with love and leading with open hands, not with defense. And I'm always trying my best to be a role model for what I speak on. Like, be a role model in what you speak on, be excellent at what you do, and also be researching what you do, and people respect what you do and have ear to what you have to say, because it's not just coming from the place of frustration. The last thing I'm gonna say is, frustration, especially outrage, is a very expensive emotion. So the more I stay in that place and I spend all that time in this, I can't build and I can't strategically learn, because I'm so frustrated, because it depletes you very quickly. So I tell people, when something is round you, just step back, because you only have so much emotional capital that you can use. And most of that should be using to build and change and be a leader in the space.
Wow. Right. So I am just internalizing everything you just shared. And to me, it is so extraordinarily powerful and empowering, maybe more important, empowering to people here. And several things that, I hear coming out. Number one, that you mentioned, right? You've got to be excellent at what you're doing. In other words, Absolutely. You've got to bring, if you're an orchestra, you've got to be playing to the nines. If you're teaching, you've got to be, impacting your students, whatever it is. If you're going to impact the institution, you've got to be bringing excellence to your role already. If you're kind of mediocre in your role, you can't expect that you're going to be able to bring around excellent change in your institution. And then I really love you hearing about, because there are sometimes these things in life that we all experience. I know that you have experienced that give us a very righteous place to be outraged, as you said. But if you get caught up in that, it doesn't affect anyone else when you put that outrage out there. It affects you and your ability to bring about change, and how you just shared about that, and being able to understand that, control it, and figure out how to evolve that into actions that bring about change.
Absolutely.
Just really, truly, truly extraordinary. And the last thing I think that was just is settling is the knowledge that you bring, right? It's something I've heard too of people who talk about, you know what, if you're going to bring about change, you've got to be the smartest one in the room. In other
Yeah.
words, what I really see is the most prepared. And that's what I hear you saying is when you go in to those meetings or experiences, when you're at an institution, you're the most prepared. You know that context of the issue or the situation. So when others might try to push back against it, they actually aren't equipped because they don't come with the knowledge and preparation that you have. That's
Right.
yeah, I'm really just like overwhelmed. And I hope all of our audience can feel empowered by that and think, how can they deploy that type of approach in their own situations? So
Yes.
yeah, so
Yes.
really, really fantastic. So, so also in addition to all of these things, you find other ways to share impact and create impact in communities. And my understanding is you have a film and a movie that you've
Yes.
also been involved in. Do you want to just share about that too? And
Oh, absolutely.
especially how you approach something like that and what your goal is with it?
Oh, absolutely. So, A Tale of Two Tales is my new film that is out, and I had a great team with me. TT Lyle, amazing photographer and videographer who filmed it and co-directed with me. Fred Onarosweke, who wrote music for the last movement. Also James Lee III, who wrote music for two of the movements. A Tale of Two Tales, I really want to embody like my existence as my quote unquote like dichotomous existence within classical music. And I want to really lean into that. The W.E.B. Du Bois quote of double consciousness. And one thing that I said in the speaking part of this film, I said, disguise has always been integral to our survival, but are both sides me? And one thing that made me come into the knowledge of how I wanted to create this, first I thought about it about a year and a half ago, I came up with the concept. And then I started thinking about the clothes I wanted to put together and what would represent this. And the reason why I came up with Two Tales is I said, you know, when you think of a career, you think of a uniform for its destination, right? Like the destination for career, you have a uniform. If you are a musician, is your long tails. If it's a doctor, it's your long white coat. You're a fireman, you're this. So I wanted to spark the imagination of what would new tails look like? If I were to present something, what would that look like? What would that career destination look like? What can I put in people's imagination to aspire to? And then there's the other layers of I am both because I reside in both spaces. You know, I've grown up playing, you know, a lot of classical music, traditional classical music. And along my journey, I've learned many Black composers and many other composers that are underrepresented that adds to my artistry. So a big thing I want to do is be an advocate for the artistry. And I was using this piece for Black composers specifically to say, if we're not playing this music, it's actually cheapening our artistry. Whenever I learned Debussy, I learned a new articulation. I learned a new color. I learned a new way to play that's different from Bach. That's different from Sibelius. So when I'm going into this space, I'm learning a new way of expression. And along with that new way of expression, there could be new aesthetics that come with this new way of expression, new ways of fashion, new ways of presenting it. And the other thing that I really, really think about a lot is I really think of the internet as a new stage. It's a place that is a new presentation. So if I'm going to present something on an online platform, I'm not saying it's taken away from the acoustic space. If I'm doing something on an online platform, I need to ensure that this is effective in this space. So what does this need to look like? How engaging it needs to be? What is the color scheme? What is the music? How does it need to move around? And how's the arc of the film need to be? Those were the things I was thinking about when I thought of A Tale of Two Tales. And also, I really wanted to affirm people and empower them that their private selves, which a lot of times we're not affirmed in these public spaces, to be daring, to do something different, to be courageous as an artist. Sometimes we as classical music can be the best karaoke artists ever. We need to elevate beyond that and start creating, because the art form will not survive if we do not create. We're very good at preservation, but we need to also be great at innovation. And innovation is one of the spaces I want to push people in as far as how it looks, how it's presented. And this new internet space is not going anywhere. So I really want to maximize in that space. And A Tale of Two Tales, I think me and TT and all the people who came to put this thing together really, really made it very, very beautiful. So I really appreciate the things that she's done. And I appreciate all the composers who wrote the music, because I thought it turned out to be a great work.
Wow, wow. And I love what you shared too about that distinction between our work with preservation versus innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely awesome. So, well, unfortunately, and for anyone who hasn't seen, how can they access and be able to check it out?
Yes, go to titusunderwood.com/TOTT. That's titusunderwood.com/TOTT. And you can see A Tale of Two Tales. Beautiful film, lots of oboe playing and very virtuosic playing and beautiful imagery. So please definitely check it out. If you go to titusunderwood.com as well, one of the tabs, you can go there and see it as well. So it's all there. Check it out.
Awesome. I encourage everyone to do that. So unfortunately, we're just about out of time, but I always am curious, for our guests who are leaders, you have all of these things that you're accomplishing, right? And it's easy for a lot of people to say, oh, it just must be so easy. He does all these things. He's got things laid out, so on and so forth. I know there have been some tough days and challenges. On the toughest days for you, where do you turn for inspiration? What do you draw upon for strength during the toughest of times?
I have to say where I draw the strength is like, one, my wife, my family, my friends, the people that keep close to me, the words of my mother that keep me like very, very strong, and my sister. And I think those things are what keep me grounded. And one of the biggest things is I like to, like I said, historical anchoring. Me being a Black person who comes from a lineage here in America, I know that my ancestors dealt with very tough things, and I'm sitting on an air-conditioned stage playing a woodwind instrument. So I have to contextualize things. Like, I stand on shoulders here. And when I think I stand on shoulders, it makes me strong because I'm able to draw on that strength of people who come before me. And it gives me context, like I said before, of my existence. So I'm not always in this frustrated place when I'm down, but I'm actually encouraged. And I know that it's a place of growth and opportunity. And trust me, I put in the hours to work. When people see me doing things over out here, making a film here, then playing at Aspen, playing, teaching, I put in the hours because this is what I love to do. And I just want to inspire people to be great, be daring, like really go for it. If you have something, you have one life to live, go for what you really, really love. Because once you really start to dream it and manifest things, there's nothing that can stop you. So I really draw on that to really, really make me grounded and continue to move forward.
Titus Underwood, you truly are one of the arts engines who is powering human creativity in our field. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I really appreciate it. It's really an honor and a privilege.